Hi, I'm Ashley Adamson. Welcome to Tea Time. Today we're going to talk about what I've learned from going on over 100 dates in the last year and a half. And those are first dates, so I probably have had more than 100 dates for the follow-ups. But anyone's transition, it's a very personal process, and a part of that process is your interplay with the people that you date and that kind of sexual tension, energetic tension, and the interplay of personalities and energy. Whether you call it masculine and feminine energy or passive and active energy, there's an aspect of one's experience that can be intertwined with the people that they date. And so I wanted to share some of that in my story. And let me just see if I can just edit this camera angle a little bit. This is a little lopsided. Okay. All right, we're in. So to start with, let's see. I started dating a year into my transition. So prior to that, I was in a committed relationship monogamously with a woman. But as I transitioned in that relationship, what I realized was that I also needed to date men. And I discovered this when a Lyft driver who was very masculine was very flirtatious with me. And I felt that energy inside my heart and was like, whoa, like I really like this. This is pushing me into a more feminine space because he's really masculine. And that brought up gender euphoria. And so it was kind of like a hint, maybe I want to check this out. But unfortunately, in that relationship, non-monogamy was said to be okay, but it really didn't work out. So we had to cut ties there, and I started dating men about a month after the breakup. So about, I'd say 8, maybe 10 months of taking hormones, I moved into dating men, as well as women, of course, but men too. And my first date was with someone named Darren, and he 55, tall, very handsome, masculine guy. And what he taught me, because he was the first man, he really treated me like the woman that I'd always wanted to be treated. Very gentlemanly, helped me take off my coat when I go into places, take me out for food, pick me up, shelter me in the rain, someone to hold on to. Honestly, still in retrospect, he was probably my dream guy. But he was looking for something which was a committed relationship, and I wasn't ready to commit because I was deciding to move to Portland. This was in San Francisco. But the biggest thing that I realized was how euphoric it felt to be in a relationship with a man, and how right it felt for me to hold his hand and to feel like he's got this, he's leading the way, he's got the male role, and being the woman in the relationship, that was the first time I really experienced being the woman in a relationship, and it just felt so right. And I remember sitting in the car as the rain was dropping on the windshield and seeing the lights reflecting on my life, and just saying, wow, like my entire life I have felt like something was missing in my relationship, and I didn't realize that it was this dynamic. This role for me is what I need and what I've been missing the whole time. So that was a big realization, and it brings me tears to just think about how touching that moment was and how special it really showed me. Unfortunately, it didn't work out because I had to move. He was looking for something else. So I moved to Portland from San Francisco, and I started dating men in Portland, as well as women. The first man that I met there, ex-military, 6'4", huge. Like the guy was, he would run laps around all the CrossFit people. So like, just sculpted and delicious. And he was super masculine, very testosterone. And what I learned from him was what it felt like to have someone give service. He baked me, he asked me what my favorite food was. He baked that for me. He treated me really well. He was also looking for commitment, and I was not ready to commit, which is really ironic to tell you this because now I'm in Berlin and I'm looking for commitment, and it's so hard to find it here. But we got into some arguments over small things, and I think the stress of his work and the amount of testosterone he had made it really hard for him to be emotionally capable of understanding where his emotions were coming from. And so it didn't work out, but I learned from that. I learned how to communicate with men, relating my own experience of, being in a testosterone world. For those of you who have occupied a testosterone world, how does it feel when you're trying to locate those emotions in yourself, when you're feeling frustrated or you're feeling like really upset? It's kind of sometimes hard, right? You can just kind of snap and feel angry or frustrated really quickly. You can go from like 0 to 100. And that certainly changed once I was on estrogen. I don't know how it's been for you. I'd love to hear how your evolution has happened as well. So there was that. Then I moved on to dating women. I had a dream about dating a trans woman. And so I said, well, hey, I should go back to dating women. And I met a beautiful, darling lady named Drew. And we ended up dating for a long time, but not seriously, sort of like friends dating. And we explored kink. And so for me, that was a sexuality experience. And that was a blossoming into understanding how to be in a subspace and how like what felt right for me. And I also tried the other way around, being a top, and I learned I'm really good at that. But of course I knew that because I'm a self-described life top. Like I just go out of, like I go after life, I go for it, life, go seize it. That's what I'm making this for you guys, because I want you to go seize your life too. Be a life top. That doesn't mean you have to be a top in the bedroom though. Yeah, and so I kind of need to speed up a little bit. I'll just kind of go to some of the key points. I think Portland, with the men, I really learned how to be treated well. And also with the women too, I learned how to be treated well. I think when you start as a trans woman especially, you feel undervalued. You feel like, I felt undervalued. I felt less attractive. I felt less needed and less deserving of love and attention and being shown value. How's it been for you in your own self-esteem as you've evolved and kind of moved through this process? Do you have low self-esteem? How much do you feel like your worth is based on someone else's actions? And for me, it was showing me that people valued my presence. People were attracted to me. I could actually live out the fantasy that I had of dating someone that I was attracted to. And I remember always asking myself, like, would I ever be able to date men? Would men ever date me? And also, would women ever date me? Just being trans, I felt disgusting. So it felt really good to kind of like validate that and also learn on my inner space of my own femininity and how it reacted to other people's like prodding and changes based on how they pressed their masculinity or other energy with me. One odd thing that I picked up was my laugh. Like the laugh that I give, that I learned from dating a guy. I went on 2 dates with a guy and he was very big and masculine and he made me feel safe and also feel a little silly. And one day my laugh just came out and I just kept laughing and at the absurdity of something and it just stuck with me. And so my laugh, like that one, that just came from dating. It just like came out of me. So that was really interesting. And then what else do we have? Well, so I dated this motorcyclist named Phil and he, this was a sex thing, but he was the first guy that I dated for more than 3 dates or 2 dates. I think we dated for 4 dates. And he really showed me what it was like to be in kind of like a quasi relationship. And he was the first man to orgasm inside me, which is kind of like an energetic connection that I felt was worth exploring and seeing what that's like. Eventually I moved to Berlin, and right before I moved to Berlin, I met a beautiful trans woman who picked me up and treated me out and took me out to really fancy dinners and showed me horse riding and flew out with me to Berlin and just showed so much commitment and love and givingness that I just felt so special. I'd never felt that special before. So that was a gift, to just feel special. And then here in Berlin, it's actually been really tough. I've gone on a lot of first dates and found a lot of people that are just not right for me. And what I've learned in dating all of the people that have not been right for me is, like, you gotta kind of stick towards your values, and you gotta, like, know that you do have value. Because I get ghosted here, people kind of treat me like some meat, and I don't find any interest or willingness to commit. What I have found, though, is I've found a lot of sex, and I've gotten a lot better at sex, because I've been able to see people consistently just for sex. And that's, I think, an aspect of one's rediscovery of their own body, is once you start transitioning and you become like a woman, or you become a man, however you become, there is a rediscovering of your body and a rediscovering of how you engage sexually in the bedroom. And for me, that was something I actually didn't get to explore a lot, because while I went on a lot of dates, I didn't have a lot of sex because I was very choosy about who I had sex with. And it's been here in Berlin where I've basically only been able to have sex and not really have that relationship intimacy, that I've gotten a lot better at it. I've learned how to orgasm in the middle of sex. And I've learned how to moan in different ways. Like last night, or this weekend, I learned a new moan with the current Brazilian that I'm seeing. Which is sort of, like your voice and your sex, it's it's kind of like a thing, because like if I just drop my larynx and I just moan, it's like like that's not, you don't want to hear that when you're having sex. If you're a man having sex with a woman, or even if you're a woman having sex with a woman, you don't want to hear that from your woman, So like learning how to moan, like that kind of stuff. That's the one I learned, that that one I learned this weekend. Like learning how to moan, learning how to express, and then learning how to focus on your own pleasure, because you kind of express, and sometimes you want to express to communicate, to communicate to your partner that they're pleasuring you, to communicate to your partner that you're a woman, to just, turn them on. But if you're so focused on that, you can also forget about your own pleasure. And I've noticed that when I'm moaning, sometimes I'm more focused on the moan, that I don't fully absorb the pleasure. And so the part that I'm calibrating and working through is learning to focus on the pleasure and letting the moan emerge when it feels right, but doing less moaning, being less noisy, to just hone that sensation and feeling. How's it been for you in the bedroom? Have you figured out ways to really express yourself sexually and enjoy that? I'd love to hear. So this video is probably running long, but I will say one more thing, which is what I've learned more recently with the Brazilian, which is how to be more vulnerable, how to be more trusting, and how to be less judgmental. I have a very high standard, and I use that standard in a way that can sometimes be judgmental about someone. Like they're not being smart enough about their situation. They're not taking care of themselves enough. They don't love themselves enough. They don't make enough money. They're not a go-getter. I like go-getters. I like people that take care of themselves, loves themselves, make money, and are physically fit, and good lovers as well. And I think that also makes it, when you itemize someone like that, it can make it difficult to actually enjoy, because you start thinking about how they compare against another person on a spreadsheet, and then you're like, I don't make spreadsheets, by the way. It's just, I have a mental spreadsheet. And then you think, I can do better, right? Like, have you ever thought that, or have you ever heard that from other people who are like, I can do better? It's a tough thing to get stuck into, because you're never going to be satisfied. You're never going to be willing to commit to someone to really love and expand and dive into that. But with COVID, what's been really interesting is it's kind of forced the situation to commit to someone and to just keep going with them. So I'm in a COVID couple right now with this Brazilian guy, and he's not perfect, but I really like him now. And I don't think I would have been able to say that had COVID not been happening, because I probably would have just been like, all right, next. And instead, we're really getting to know each other. We're spending weekends together, and it's been really beautiful. So with that, thank you for joining me today. Please share. I would love to hear how your experience has been and how you've evolved and learned about yourself as you've been dating. I guess I'll see you tomorrow. With love and in German, goodbye. Tschüss.